Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this, what is sure to be a fascinating artist talk with the current exhibition here at the Silk-Purse Art Center titled Ethereality. My name is Stephen Snyder. I will be your host for this evening. I am the Gallery and Communications Manager for the West Vancouver Community Arts Council, and we are thrilled to be able to present this stunning exhibition featuring three very talented artists who you're going to get to meet in just a few moments. If you have any questions or comments, any of you watching us live, you can drop those in the chat and we will get to them throughout the evening. As I said, we are here at this exhibition is here at the Silk-Purse Art Center in West Vancouver, which is on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples. Here, that means the Squamish Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and the Musqueam Nation. And the Arts Council is incredibly grateful to our host nations for their stewardship of these lands since time immemorial. And we are incredibly thrilled and honored to be able to celebrate all arts and culture with our host nations, our neighbors, and our community members. So Ethereality is a stunning exhibition featuring three talented artists, Enda Bardell, Jenny Liu, and Mong Yen, and they have all painted fantastic scenes and landscapes in watercolor. And as you'll see in just a few moments, they've all done it in incredibly different ways, different techniques, different approaches. It's pretty wonderful. So the exhibit is on here at the Silk-Purse until September 17th, 2023. So please come on in and see it. And without further ado, let's get to meet our fantastic artists. Let's go alphabetically. Let's start with Enda Bardell. Could you please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you?
So you would like me to introduce myself and talk about my work, etc. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Stephen, for the invitation. My art career began way back when we were refugees in Sweden, having fled our little country, Estonia, which was occupied by the Soviet Union at that time. And my dad's crime was defending his country, so we had to leave. We landed in Sweden. The Swedish government accepted refugees, but the people weren't really so keen on all these people, the influx of refugees in a 2-month period, something like $80,000. So at age 8, I began making paper dolls with wardrobes to give to girls in school in order to make friends and influence people. My mom worked in a paper factory, so I had access to cardboard and paper. So when Stalin wanted the refugees back to Russia, because they were now considered to be the property of Soviet Union, we had to leave again because of my father's crime defending his country. So in Vancouver, my grade 6 teacher at Seymour Elementary School suggested that I send one of my drawings to an inter-school art competition, and I won a book for the school library. And from then on, I considered myself an artist. So I continued my art, intersected with raising family and many careers. I worked in oils and acrylic hardage works and fabric art, and I was a costume designer in the movie industry. And then I began watercolors in year 2002 with Tony Onley. Now, I connect with nature. I don't really connect with building except when I do hardage work, but I paint what I love. I love painting skyscapes on location or from reference photos of places that I've explored. And the only man-made object I paint is our freighters. And I want to express the feeling of having been there. And I paint in series. I want to really fulfill the experience. So I usually paint in series of about 18 or 20 paintings. And also I paint fast and loose, which enables me to connect with the moment. Now, I consider, there are, and like for me, watercolor is like ballroom dancing. I'm the leader and the watercolor is the follower. And the watercolor occasionally wants to do something of its own. It decides to go a certain way. So the watercolor wants to do some syncopation, like in ballroom dancing. The follower wants to do some syncopations, which the leader must allow it to do. So and so it sometimes with great results and sometimes with not so great results. So, but my nature, I'm an adventure, and I love to gamble. Now, back to Long Beach to my painting, rashing. I'm attracted to water. I swim. Everything about water I love, and the water, and especially the turbulent water at Long Beach, somehow gives me an inner sense of peace. The more turbulent the water, or if it's a storm, I just feel calm. I feel the opposite. So when I paint wanted to create this merciless sea at Pacific Rim, I needed to use whatever method I could to almost destroy my painting to get that effect. So I painted very loose. I tried to create backgrounds in watercolor. I also used sprinkled salt, and I spattered, and I used sandpapers, and I also use only 4 colors. I use in this work, and almost all my work, it's Indian yellow, brown madder, Antwerp blue, and Payne's gray for the dark. So I just wanted to create that ocean that shows no mercy, even though it's called Pacific Ocean, the peaceful ocean. It still is not on the west coast of Vancouver Island. So, and titles for me, they occur either when I'm photographing or when I'm painting. I don't ever look for titles. I sometimes have a title in my mind and I think, okay, I'll find a scenery to match that title. And also, back to my background, I am honored to have 2 of my early abstracts in the National Museum permanent collection in Kumu, Estonia. That's a big honor. That's my life in I don't know how many minutes. Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Next, Jenny, could you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you as an artist?
Sure. Thank you so much, Stephen, for all your hard work for coming up with such a fantastic title for this exhibition. Thank you so much for all the people who tune in. My name is Jenny Liu, and like all artists, my interest in art started from very young age. Drawing is always part of my life. I studied landscape architecture at Tongji University, Shanghai, China. And in 1983, I graduated from university with a Bachelor of Engineering in Landscape Architecture. While at the university, I took a 1-year course on drawing, excuse me, and another year on watercolor, and also took the course History of Western Fine Arts. At that time, I knew I'm going to be dedicating my life to painting one day. After graduation, I worked for several large design firms in China, Japan, and Canada. I left China in 1987 at the age of 25. In 1993, I graduated from University of Guelph, Ontario, with my master's degree in landscape architecture, and started working as a parks design technician for local government. 7 years later, I started my own consulting firm doing landscape architectural services. My projects all across the Lower Mainland. When I'm practicing as landscape architect, I often visit museums, galleries when I'm traveling, and always hear the inner voice, got to paint, got to paint. So the voice had never stopped inside my mind. In 2018, I started painting watercolor full time. And since then, I have participated in quite a few exhibitions in Canada, Japan, and the USA, and also won a bronze award for an international art competition. The reason why I paint mountains, honestly, I really don't know myself, because for many years I painted variety things like animals. I like wild animals, all kinds of things. I found that when I paint them, they talk to me. And then I also like abstract, and gradually, because I think I see mountains every day when I'm walking. I see lots, and then that's when another thing I remember when I was like high school. My father started painting full time. At that time, he retired, and he painted mountains only. He every day painted lots of mountains, but his painting is different. He's more like a Chinese ink painting. I didn't pay much attention at that time. I don't know if genetically or somehow, I just feel like such a fascination with mountains, which I cannot even explain myself. That's all I can say. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you for sharing, Jenny, sharing your journey. It's very interesting hearing differences and parallels so far between everyone. Now we have our third and final artist to get to know. Mong, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello, my name is Mong Yen. I was born in Cambodia. Came to Canada in 1980 as a refugee. And my first stop was in Toronto. After a few years in Toronto, finished high school. Then I moved to Ottawa University, and graduated as a mechanical engineer. Then I moved back to Toronto, worked in the engineering field for a number of years. Then I decided, in 1992, I decided to move to Vancouver. I don't know why Vancouver. maybe it's not as cold as the East Coast. And the ocean, the evergreen landscape all year round, that really interests me. So stay in Vancouver for a few years. After that, I met my wife. We married, and we have 2 sons. And of course, they're all grown up now. They are in their mid-20s. And my wife actually is the one who introduced me a book about Andrew Wyatt, the biography of Andrew Wyatt. And I really love Andrew Wyatt's work. And I learned how to do a tempera, and I did a few painting in a tempera myself. It's a very difficult medium, but it's beautiful and long-lasting once it finishes. Yeah. But my favorite medium is watercolor. Watercolors. And West Coast landscape. I have a dog named Kuro. Stephen met him the other day. Yeah, from time to time I go out with Kuro. He's my outdoor companion. Yeah, we go hiking, camping, and canoeing. Enjoy the West Coast landscape and explore. And I tell myself, as long as I can see, I continue to paint. And as long as I have the energy, I will go out and explore. Thank you. If you have any question, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for introducing it. Thanks, everyone. It's great for everyone to get to know a little bit about you. It's really interesting to hear your journeys, all having come to Vancouver and Canada from different places at different times for different reasons, and how you've all come to the world of art, from different careers that maybe at first seem unrelated or are somehow in a different field in the arts, but now you've all come to painting as kind of your passion as to what you're doing. It's very interesting. Now, I think we're going to take a quick tour of the exhibits so everyone watching can get a little taste of what it's like. You can see a little bit of it behind me. I'm here in the gallery right now. But yeah, we'll have a quick look at everything. While this video is great, it does not do the exhibit justice. You really have to come on in and see it. So this is what it looks like as you're coming in from off our waterfront entrance. We kind of start on this side of the gallery with work by Mong Yen.
Mm.
As you're all going to see throughout, as we mentioned, this is all watercolor.
Yeah.
But so different how everyone's doing it, because next we come to some work here from Enda Bardell.
I like creating the effect with the salt and just like experimenting. I probably should have been a scientist or something, but watercolor will suffice.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way the surf is over there. It's just turbulent and it does whatever it wants to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We get a few more pieces from Mong here. We usually it's always tricky to figure out how we're going to do an exhibit, right? Whether we keep all the artist work together or if we kind of mix it up. And I think we mixed it up with this exhibit to really sort of contrast how everyone's using the medium and everyone's very distinct point of view, so they can really talk to each other. And here we've got the fantastic work of Jenny Liu.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, being beautiful paintings that you've all done, I have to say we've had a number of comments from visitors already that everyone has also enjoyed the presentation. How you've all chosen to map or frame your work. People have really liked your presentation abilities as well as your painting skills. Get over to the other side of the gallery. I'm sure everyone watching now can tell everyone's style.
Mm-hmm.
Some work from Mong, and move over to some more work from Enda.
All this work looks really good together, like the three artists' work, like slightly different styles, but it works well together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're similar, but with a little bit of contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah. It was, for those of you watching who maybe don't know how we do exhibits here at the Silk Purse, is the Westman Arts Council collects submissions. It's an open call for submissions from artists, and we hire a jury of professional artists and curators to find common themes and elements amongst those submissions and put artists together that they think would make a dynamic exhibition. And they did a really great job with this show, I have to say. The three of you, as you said, Enda, the work really speaks to each other in complementary ways, as well as just being beautiful on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And while it is mostly watercolor, we do have a few pieces that aren't with this great little bird here. This acrylic
Backyard,
piece.
my backyard bird.
We've already seen this piece behind you this evening.
I like the little detail that you insert in your work there, Mong, like the path in the doorway. It's
Yeah.
a big barn, and then there's this little, oh, here I am.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really nicely depicted.
And then we end on this piece, which is above our desk on our street entrance, and it's a graphite piece, again from Mong Yen. So that's just a quick little snapshot of the show. But yeah, you really have to come in to see it, and you have the chance. It's on up until September the 17th. So now each artist has chosen a work that sort of exemplifies kind of the body of work in your show. So we're gonna pull that up so we can have a bit of a closer look at it, and then we're gonna tell you a little bit about it. Let's start with Mong Yen. I'm gonna pull up here this painting here called Weeding, which I lost, but there we go. All right, could you please tell us about this painting?
Yeah, Weeding. You see this boulder? It's right in my backyard. Right in my backyard. It's a huge one, as you can see. And one day when I was working in my backyard and mowing the lawn, and just take a little break, and suddenly, like, I noticed that, oh, wow. You know, with that weed digger, you know, resting on that boulder, I was like, wow, that's a really nice, you know, composition there, and something that really struck me. So right away, I went inside and, you know, pick up a sketchbook and do a quick sketch, you know, like that. And then I keep it there for day and week, and just keep thinking about it, you know. And then after, I think after a couple of months, and then I did a painting of it, you know, and this is how it ended up, this piece. Yeah. So basically a lot of scenes that I paint, it basically just from my backyard, really. Yeah. So yeah, so that's how the finished work look like, the weeding. It's the day that I working in the yard. Yeah.
I love your contrasting shapes. Like you have this big boulder, and then you have this little tuft of grass on top, and that solid rake beside it. Like they really sort of complement one another.
Well, I put that dandelion on that boulder just to show them, say, hey, I'm not sitting around, you know, I'm working.
Yeah, the texture is so beautifully painted. I love the textures of the details, such attention to details. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I love about watercolor, you know, you can play with it, you know. Yeah, really like it. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. And to think that this was just in your backyard, this was just something you saw and said, yeah, perfect composition, let's do it.
That's that's right. I don't have to go far, really. Yeah.
Yeah, like echoing the other.
You never know where you're going to find your subject matter.
That's right. That's right. You know, when things, you know, certainly strike you at that moment, you know, you don't have to look for it. It's right there. You know, if you're lucky enough to capture that moment. Yeah.
Such such, besides being very detailed, as Jenny pointed out, such really warm tones in your pieces. It's a why do you think you're attracted to this kind of particular palette?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that. You see, I mentioned that I love Andrew Wyatt's painting. You know, the thing that attracted me the most, Andrew Wyatt, because he used color, the umber and the earth color, the tone that it's sort of like give you this quiet and lonely feeling. And that is the thing that really give me peace and comfort, that tone. Yeah. The umber and the earth color. Yeah.
Yeah. When you say the lonely feeling, that is definitely a feeling, like it's a lonely feeling. I wonder, what is happening there? There's more than meet the eye.
Yes.
That's what I see.
Yes, yes, yes. And that feeling, it just like really give me peace and comfort. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Thanks for the great discussion, everyone. Now we're going to pull up a great, fantastic work here from Jenny Liu. Moon moment number 2. Awesome. Jenny, please tell us about this wonderful piece.
Thank you so much, Stephen. You can see this is imaginary landscape. It's kind of like idealized image of Rocky Mountains. For this painting, I think that when I started, I have no tangible idea what the end result will look like. I have no idea. I know I want to paint a mountain. That's all. I don't know where the focal point or anything else. So I started from the bottom. And so from the bottom, I want to have some textures and just some suggestion of wildflower or deciduous bushes. And so I basically hoping that wanted the eyes to stop for a few seconds, and from there and lead the eyes to from here and then to the top of the mountain. That will be the focal point. So basically, once I painted this area, I found it much easier. Kind of entered a meditative state. From there, I paint most. These painting part relatively slowly. I painted about finished in 6 sessions. So gradually painted the textures and the forms of the mountains. And I feel that I don't know how very hard to describe, because a lot of times when I'm painting, I'm not even thinking. I don't have, I just really follow my subconscious. So it's very hard to describe. But I think what I enjoy most, every day I commit myself to painting in the morning, because I love that the feel. Because when I paint in the mountains, for example, I feel part of mountains myself. I found that I don't really know what the structure mountain should be, but I just feel like I'm part of mountain. And then sometimes I feel like I'm a bird flying up in the air, looking at the mountains. So if you're looking at it from human perspective, a lot of times if you're looking at the paint from photos, those trees should be much taller, because that's where you stand. Normally when you see photo, if you stand somewhere, you see the trees much taller. For me, I'm not feeling like, I'm not using human perspective. I feel like I'm a bird. I'm flying high in the air, looking at mountains. That's in terms of composition. I think in the end, I'm glad 1/3 rule was observed. Sometimes because the way I'm paint, I really don't know where my focal point. So sometimes it's harder to adjust the composition. And also I want to talk about the color scheme. In terms of color scheme, I use both cool colors and warm colors, and to create the depth space and color harmony. And I really like that, you have these cool colors and warm colors dancing on the paper, kind of lyric. I think what I also here wanted to talk about is that the mountaintop was painted quite lightly, so I have really dark background against it. I think the idea is to create luminosity here. The reason I call it the moon moment number 2, I think the moon is in many cultures is associated with calm, tranquility. I have been painting dreamy mountain landscapes ever since the beginning of pandemic to quiet noises on my mind, to feel connected with natural world and the universe. I think this painting definitely has brought me calm, tranquility, serenity, and more appreciation to our natural world. And I hope that they can bring the same to the viewer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jenny. And I have to say, yes, there definitely is a very calming aspect to your work. You just look at it and you just breathe in that alpine air and just exhale and feel nice and calm and centered. I think you definitely achieved that.
Thank you, Stephen.
I really love the soft and the hard edges, like the soft mountainscape and the trees that are sort of popping up in there, and the trees appear to be lost in the mountain mist, which gives it some kind of a mystical feeling for me. It's just sort of magical and mystical. It's like another world up there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's very interesting, your work, Jenny, compared to our other two artists who are sort of capturing these specific and real sort of scenes, and almost like this is a stamp. This is, I was here. This is this place. But yours are much more kind of what you've created. Do you ever use any kind of reference material, or is it all just completely from your imagination?
The way I work is that if I have a photo in front of me, I found that sometimes I tend to be quite rigid and doesn't have the flow. I tried many ways, but I found in the end, I like to paint from my imagination. I'm sure, imagination are fed by all the surroundings, the memories, the observation, because I walk daily in my neighborhood. I see the North Shore Mountains. And recently I went to Whistler, a few days and took a lot of photos. I'm sure, just be so fortunate to live this part of the world. We have the beautiful mountains of Western Canada and provide endless inspiration. So even though it's all from my mind, but I think those inspiration are fed by all these surrounding landscapes, mountains.
Thank you. And I have to say, when you describe your process, how you don't necessarily plan something and how you've worked, in this piece from the bottom to the top, I find that very interesting when dealing with watercolor, because it can be a very tricky medium that can take a lot of planning, right? Knowing where your lights and your darks are going to be. So I find your intuitive approach very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I found that for me, yes, I do, I try to different way, but I prefer to do this because I always somehow like to paint imaginative landscapes. Here is more idealized image of Rocky Mountains. But if you taking photos, sometimes you find if you real photo, you find you needed to change the composition or that. But I found when you paint from imagination, you can, do whatever the composition you want. It is tricky, and that's why I got a so big pile of failed paintings. It doesn't turn out to be good because in the beginning, I at least have 75% are going to be thrown away, and then gradually get a little bit better. But even that, when I'm painting this way, a lot of times the results is very risky. I have to say risky. A lot of times I only have a few. I have a mild files for keep smaller. I have a big file. All these things need to be thrown away. So it is tricky, but I think that's the way I like to work. My husband, he also paint a little bit. He's artist, architect as hobby, but he always plan ahead. He always tell me the importance. I said, no, I can never plan ahead. I never allow pencil lines on my paint. I want, if it's the light area, I want it very pure, very clean. No any pencil line, no any plan ahead.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Excellent. Our final piece, Rashing by Enda Bardell. You talked a little bit about this, but let's bring it back up. Awesome. Hi, yeah, please, Enda, please tell us a bit more about this work.
Okay, about this work, well, as I mentioned, I paint in series, and the reason I paint in series is I like to explore every aspect of what is in front of me. I just want to see, what if I do this? What if I do that? I like it. It's like science, or I want to. I like to experiment just to see how I can create the feeling and the insanity about, say, what I'm seeing. When I say insanity, it's like the west coast of Vancouver Island is really an exciting place. It's always exciting. There's nothing is the same. And to paint water, like water is never stationary. So how do I get all that stuff? So on my horizons, as you notice, there's always a white line. And the reason that I do that is because I want to somehow create some kind of a depth, or separate the sky from the water, or separate the horizon from the foreground. And with this painting, I thought, okay, so I've got some, and I don't draw because drawing, I find it inhibits me, because then I have to follow the line, and I don't want to follow the line. Nobody has ever accused me of being normal, and so I don't, want to follow any lines. The only line that I have there is I use masking tape for that white line on the horizon. So I go with the horizon line, and then I paint the sky. Did I say I use masking tape for the horizon? Yeah. And I paint I'm trying to point on in my painting, but I paint the sky down to the masking tape, to the white line. And when the sky is dry quickly, then I start painting the background, a landscape. I get that out of the way, and then I start working on the water. So, and the body, the land I fit in later. I fit the land into the water instead of painting the land first, then water around there. So I like to do it in reverse. And so how do I get this turbulence? Okay, so it's, as I mentioned, it's just like spattering salt and trying to get backgrounds, and trying to, someplace, if I don't get enough lift from the salt, then I'll go in there and I'll use some a sandpaper and whatever way. But I like experimenting. I like adventure, and I just love to see what I get. I usually don't have any objective in mind other than to see what I'm going to get, to see how the watercolor is responding to me. As I said, it's sort of like dancing. I do something and the watercolor does something else. And
beautifully done. Yeah, it's very, I love all these currents, all these waves, it's really beautifully done.
Thank you. So when I paint the water and the sky, I paint the sorry, I paint vertically. I paint my horizontal paintings. I paint them vertically to allow the paint to flow. I'll show you here, to allow the paint to flow back and forth, so I get a really nice smooth flow. And if you look at the horizon, on the top left there's a little bit of a glow there. So I use brown matter, and it somehow blends nicely into the Antwerp blue. So this is painted with brown matter, Indian yellow, Antwerp blue, and I use Payne's gray. I usually only use 3 primary colors. They're transparent, and I use Payne's gray for the dark. Payne's gray is a blue gray. So all my work, whether it's from Point Grey foreshore or any skies or anything like that, they're all experiments to see how the watercolor responds to my torture. That's basically all I can really say about that. It's that, and I mentioned the titles. The titles always, I look at it, and when I'm painting it, and I think, what is this going on? This is rashing, it's thrashing. We're going to call it thrashing, and that's what it is. And that's what I was doing. I was thrashing the salt, and I was thrashing and I sometimes use the brush, and I go dab, 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 just to see what happens. Probably I should have been a scientist instead. Yeah.
I think that the rocks here is also very beautiful. Look at the colors. You see all variation in colors, and here's a dark. I see some, yellow, kind of dark brown, and a little bit cool and warm color. I think that the color is very beautifully, rocks beautifully depicted.
Oh, thank you.
The wave look really lively.
Yeah, very lovely. Yeah, it's just alive.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, fantastic work. Thank you for sharing all your little, as you said, experiments and scientific mad science techniques. That's really interesting. And it's great to hear, because it is a medium that is very versatile, and you can try lots of different things to get whatever effect you're trying to achieve.
Well, it's a playful medium, it's not, I have to allow it to play with it or dance with it, do a number with it. I don't like boundaries.
That seems to be a bit of a common thread this evening amongst you all. And yeah, the just different washes and layers of color that you have going on. As you mentioned, you sort of limit your palette, but there's still a richness of color and depth that you're able to achieve.
Thank you.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing those great little insights into your artwork. That was wonderful. And I guess you've kind of all answered it a little bit to an extent tonight, but why watercolor? Why is that the medium that you've chosen, or that you think expresses you as an artist the best?
I will go first. I've tried almost everything. I started with, when I was doing paper dolls, it were just crayons and dolls. And then I went into oil. Right. And then I went into fabric art and I wanted to explore that. I'm an explorer. Then I went into acrylic hard aids and I've done that. And then watercolor is something that I hadn't painted. And I thought, okay, it's the fluidity and I can paint fast. I like painting fast. I don't want to paint slow. So, but there's also the two sides of me. The acrylic hard aids is painting slow, detailed, etc. And the watercolor, it's like having a great glass of Jägermeister or something like that. It just lets me go and it dances with me. So I like the challenge and I like the looseness and I like it because it's unpredictable.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I think that unpredictability is really attracts me, and the watercolor is so fluid. I paint acrylic also, and before, and I'm thinking sometimes using mixed medium painting, but I love the watercolor. When you put the paints on paper, the mingle, all mingle together. It's not like acrylic. Most time they stay in their own place. Watercolor interact with each other. The fluidity, it can be more spontaneous. I don't know, something is really, really fascinates me ever since I took a watercolor course while I was studying at university. And another thing is that because I saw my father paint Chinese painting mountains, I think watercolor in some way a little close to Chinese ink painting, some way, not 100%, but some way. So for all these reasons, that's really attracts me, but I will try some mixed medium in the future as well.
I think watercolor and paper is all more natural. It's more earthy for me anyway. That's what I sort of like. And I love nature and watercolor. It just somehow represents nature, watercolor on paper and water.
That's right. Yeah, for me, watercolor, I think you can see the result quickly.
Right.
I use it like a study work before I really commit myself. I can quickly sketch with a watercolor, put color and shape and everything. So I have an idea. I say, this is going to work more or less. I can tell, right? So watercolor, it's just really give you like an idea. Is it going to be a potential finished painting, thing like that? So it's quick. It's spontaneous. Yeah, yeah. So and it's a lot of fun. Watercolor,
It's also interesting. You've all kind of mentioned this. But all of the work here on display really has a distinct lack of human presence, right? Like there are no people. There's very few man-made structures, and when there are, there's nobody there. they've just kind of left it, and it's an old barn or it's a rake leaning up against a shed, so everybody's gone. So that's another very interesting element, and really kind of, I think, exemplifies what a lot of you were saying about trying to capture this connection with nature and your surroundings and the feeling that can give you.
Well, it's all about feeling the place.
Thank you, Enda and Jenny and Mong, for sharing your artwork with us in the exhibition and sharing your insights this evening. And thank you everyone for watching. If you want to meet our three amazing artists in person and talk with them about their art, we are having a Meet the Artist reception on September the 7th from 6 till 8 p.m. So stop by the Silk Purse, see the stunning exhibition, and you can chat with our artists. And the show, again, is up here at the Silk Purse until September 17th. And if you want to know more about our artists or follow them, in the description of this video, there's links to their websites and social media, so you can stay up to date and check out what they're doing. So please come on down and see Ethereality here at the Silk Purse, featuring Enda Bardell, Jenny Liu, and Mong Yen. And thank you all for joining us for this fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Stephen.